This week I've travelled to the island of Mont Saint-Michel on the Normandy coast of France. Welcome to Songs of Praise. I'll be following in the footsteps of millions of Christian pilgrims who've walked these sands for over 1,000 years. Wow, Francois, it's just so commanding on the skyline. I mean, it reaches up to the sky, and I guess the pilgrims would have really felt that after their long walk. Josie Darby will be finding out about Mont Saint-Michel's sister monastery in Cornwall, St Michael's Mount.
You're treading the route that many pilgrims have trodden. Well, this is the West Door, and this is the way everyone would have approached in medieval times.
And I'll be uncovering the origins of Mont Saint-Michel's amazing abbey. Just one look at Mont Saint-Michel reveals why it's enchanted Christians since a chapel was first built here at the beginning of the 8th century. Rising high above its vast bay, this World Heritage Site is known as the perfect image of paradise, a place where the earth meets heaven. Mont Saint-Michel has drawn Christian pilgrims for over 1,000 years. Faith is what brings them here, and it's also what drives them to attempt the sometimes hazardous barefoot walk across to the island. While I get ready to join some modern-day pilgrims, here's the first of our inspirational hymns from churches and cathedrals right across Britain, starting with Prt1 Abbey. Mont Saint-Michel is the most visited tourist attraction in France outside Paris. Nearly 3 million people flock to the island every year, with at least a third of that number making the climb through the narrow streets up to the abbey itself. For an increasing number of visitors, the journey to Mont Saint-Michel starts here, near the village of Genève, on the other side of the bay. Because walking across the sand is the way many Christians choose to reach the island today. The bay at Mont Saint-Michel has one of the biggest and fastest tides in Europe. The dangers of crossing it are a matter of historical record and are depicted in this scene in the famous Bayeux tapestry. François Lamotte d'Argy is one of the guides who regularly leads Christian pilgrims over to the island.
When the tide arrives, it can arrive really quick. As the bay is not really flat, sometimes you can get caught on a kind of island.
What about quicksand? I've heard there's quicksand around here.
The quicksand can be a problem for people who have difficulties to walk and who are not used to it. Indeed, it's a very strange sensation when you have never done it before.
Yeah. We're walking, it seems like a long way away. How far is it and how long will it take us?
It takes more or less 3 hours 30 to hike there, and the distance is about 6-7 kilometers, so 4 or 5 miles I would say.
So we've got plenty of work to do.
Yes, indeed.
Let's go for it. The first church on Mont Saint-Michel was built by the bishop of the nearby town of Avranches in the early 8th century, and this basilica is now home to his skull, which is a holy relic.
So Saint-Aubert was the bishop of Avranches, and during 3 nights he had the same dream, and during these dreams St. Michael's asked the bishop to build a church on the top of this highland just in front of Avranches. The dream was not exactly a dream because St. Michael appeared in the room of the bishop and decided to touch the head of the bishop, and that's why today we've got this hole on the right part of the skull. After these dreams, Saint-Aubert decided to create a small sanctuary dedicated to St. Michael. After the building of that first church, the Duke of Normandy, Richard I, decided to transform the church of Saint-Aubert in an abbey with a monastic community. And these monks, who arrived in the year 966, began to build a true church with stones, with bricks, on today the oldest part of the Mont Saint-Michel. Very quickly, Mont Saint-Michel became probably the best place for pilgrimage of the whole Europe.
For the serving archpriest, the story of the divine origins of Mont Saint-Michel is a legacy to be cherished.
Here in the basilic, a lot of people come because Avranches and Saint-Aubert is on Mont Saint-Michel's road, and people come to see the relic. It's like a first step in their pilgrimage.
We're making good progress here, and so far we've avoided the quicksand. Time for a very appropriate hymn.
The